This is Power 102 Digital Wednesday. On a Wednesday, Hard Talk is hosted by Farid Ali. Hard Talk starts now. Good afternoon, Farid.
Good afternoon, David. It's good to hear your voice. Mr. Brenton Knights, it's wonderful to see you.
Yeah, same here.
I have to say we have a celebrity in our midst this afternoon to the listening public. Brenton Knights is the president of the Maxi Taxis Association Route 2. Am I correct in saying same? Or maybe I could allow you to introduce yourself in the context of your portfolio.
Yes, my name is Brenton Knights, humble servant of the Route 2 Maxi Taxi Association.
Welcome to the program.
Thanks very much.
I was reading in recent times some of the trauma that you all have been experiencing, or reading about some of the trauma that you all, meaning the Maxi Taxi operators and your association, have been experiencing and engaging. And it attracted my attention. I had to go to great lengths to get your number, so it's really good to finally get on to you, and thanks for making yourself available to us. What I wanted to explore this afternoon, and just to get a feel for what the climate is like, and the social climate, the working climate, the environment for you all as Maxi Taxi operators and an association that looks after the interests of the operators. What are some of the challenges you all face? What I will say is that what brought you all into the foreground again for discussion is I also read in the newspaper where one of the operators was charged before the court and is to appear, as it speaks to not assisting the police in the execution of their duty at the City Gate area. I'm not going to dwell, the afternoon's discussion is not about that. I'm just saying that attracted my attention based on the social media coverage that was given to that arrest, and then the coverage that was carried by way of articles in the newspaper. But like everything else, there's a broader discussion behind some of the symptoms. Tell me, how long have you been an operator? I would imagine that before you ascended to the throne of being president of the Route 2 Association, you would have started at the level of being an operator yourself, and then you were elected into office. Tell us something about your history as an operator. When did you start working Maxi, as we say in colloquial language?
I started Maxis over 15 years ago.
Okay.
Right, I was at that time I was leaving up my job that I was working at Demas, and I talked to the good Lord, and the good Lord told me, hey, that you probably need to venture into this avenue. And I sought information and investigated, and I of the opinion that was something that was there for me to do from inception, probably if you go so far and say it was part of God's plan, for it to be a servant in terms of transporting people safely to and from their various destinations, be it be work, be it be home, be it recreation. And I complied with that, and in my humble opinion, I have no regrets. The only other challenges I see from the outset is that Trinidad and Tobago really doesn't recognize maxi taxi and taxi drivers as business people. Even some of the people in the occupation and in the profession don't see themselves as business people. But it is a legitimate business. It is a business in Trinidad and Tobago, and it is a business that you do a humane service also. I can tell you Maxi Taxi operates at a subsidized cost at the private ownership of the individual. It is not subsidized by the state. It is not owned by the state. It's privately owned, and it's heavily subsidized by the owners privately. Because if you really was to put the Maxi and the taxi business in the hands of privately owned business, seriously business people, conglomerates, the prices will be way more than what it is, especially where Maxi is concerned.
How many operators are under the auspices of your association? How many people are Maxis are registered with you all as an meter operator and so on?
And roughly we could say close to about 2,000 or a little over. The bus shoot itself has 1,150 maxis in terms of access to a bus shoot pass. So we know that that is the stipulated amount allowed to be on the bus shoot. So we can go with that figure and just add in a little more for the main road and outside of it, because we are able to run from Port of Spain all the way up to Maclot.
So we're looking at 1,150 plus maxis on the bus route, but you're saying in terms of your association, you have what number in terms of 2,000 maxis?
Yeah, around that under our belt, roughly about that. Because I say the bus route alone is 1,150 allocated PBR passes, and outside of that, we have the main road, and we'll have other people who don't apply on the main road, but they will have the red band. But the challenge with that, even when we were talking at the advisory committee level, in terms of licensing, we have a challenge with that to get a specific number. And they were thinking about doing an exercise in terms of doing a holistic registration of maxi taxis, because you could appreciate sometimes people will buy maxis and for one reason or the other, they wouldn't operate. The only time you will be able to get a proper true figure is if you go through all the records of licensing, and you will be able to do that. And that is a challenge by itself, because sometimes a man might come out of the business and just say, they see me here, but I need to sell this maxi or this maxi light stadium rotten down, and that is about it. And that is a registered right to a registered maxi taxi on the system, but not in operation. The person will be able to get that true figure is licensing. And I say those are some of the challenges where you will incur to get a true figure. But the bus shoot, where you have a mechanism and a PBR pass allocated to a specific amount of maxis, you can have a fair idea. Although they, from time to time, will have little challenges at giving you a true figure of what is in service, besides to what is allocated to the system.
I follow you clearly. To be a member of the association, what you all pay dues, meaning the operators pay dues to the association?
Yes, $30. Yes, only $30 a month.
And what that money is used for generally?
That is used for administrative and paying little light utility bills and whatever. And if at the end of the day there's anything, we will see what we could bring to our members. Right now we are on a more
Wow.
serious drive in terms of getting me financial status a little more better than where it is, because if you really
to the listening public, we're having a discussion with Mr. Brenton Knights.
Organization or that component.
Yeah. Mr. Knights, are you on Wi-Fi or data? Because we're having like a connectivity issue where you're breaking up and for like 15, 20 seconds at a time. Are you hearing us now?
I am Wi-Fi.
Okay, so let's
I hear you clearly. I hear you very clear.
Okay, good. So when we look at the very layout of the City Gate area, it's something that the layout lends itself to the public. Large amounts of the public en masse accessing the various platforms in an effort to access maxis to get home. What are the hours of operation? Meaning actively maxis are in the gate. Is it 24/7 all night, or you all cut off at a particular time at night? So if you want
to... No, we are 24-hour service. We are 24 hours.
So you're saying I could get a maxi there at any possible time through the night? I would imagine not in the same fluency as daylight, but...
Right. Well, it will have a slow period in the wee hours, but we are 24-hour service.
Okay, great. Now tell me something about the security at the Citygate area where your platforms are. Do you all have police officers or estate constables? What is the arrangement for the protection of the public en masse and the maxi taxis operators who apply their trade at the platforms? Is it that you have a police at the end of each platform each day, 24/7, or at particular hours, where you could operate your maxi and not worry about a bandit pulling up with a gun, or not worry about persons who have nothing to do, as we would say in Trinity language, who just there loafing around, seeking an opportunity to do something nefarious? Is there security to engage the public and the drivers on such a level?
Not at the level that we will want it, but we have the transit unit that was formalized and formed because of the challenges that we were experiencing as operators on the route. So the transit unit, they too say, as their mandate is to operate and provide a service, 24-hour service, but the unit itself does have some challenges from time to time in terms of manpower and in terms of their scope of work, in terms of where their scope of work is from Port of Spain all the way up to Arima, and they also have to see about PTSC hub. They also have to see about Route 1. So the manpower at times does be a little challenged. But they try, and we just have them from time to time on call if something do pop up. But that's basically what we have. It's not properly fully adequate security as you would like to see a security presence. Like for instance, if you use an example by the airport, or if you use the example by Hyatt, no, we not afforded that at this point in time.
So when you say the transit officers, who exactly are these persons and what is their function?
Well, as I said, the transit unit was formalized because when we came into being, and especially operate on the bus route, we were having a lot of challenges, namely with robberies and little minor other offenses, and probably also we had some issues probably with the drivers and them also in the way how they conduct their business, and it would have even issues with the traveling public in terms of some of these areas that I will call congestion zones, like Sawa and Curep, where the density of those intersections is very populated with persons and vehicles. They are very busy intersections. So there were some challenges there, and the unit was formalized to assist with those challenges and to work alongside with the Maxi Taxi to assist in terms of any difficulties or any challenges that we may incur from time to time.
When I was a student and in and out of Port of Spain, I could imagine the crunch at 4 o'clock to get in a Maxi. Do the transit officers, is that part of their function to ensure that people will jump on top of your back to get in a Maxi? There's no crunch, pushing, shoving, people line up in a reasonable manner. That Trini style, push it down and jump in the Maxi, that still exists there, or everybody moves with decorum and order?
Well, it ain't really, that's really per se right now. But again, some of these behaviors are cultural. You know, when you have a demand and you don't have the supply to facilitate that demand, you will have these things from time to time. But right now, presently, the supply is adequate for the demand. So you don't really have no pushing and thing. It reaches a stage that people have a variety of choice. Big, small, air-conditioned, Toyota, Mitsubishi. They have a variety of choice. So the supply is very adequate right now for the demand. So you don't really have this pushing and it climbing up. But again, from time to time, if any event happens on the bus route and there's a delay, like sometimes when we have a little flooding or anything and it causes a delay with the Maxis and then we turn into Citygate in a tiny manner, it may have a little build up. And the Trini culture is basically sometimes to rush. But the climbing on your back and this kind of disorderly behavior and conduct, we have moved away from that quite a while now.
What is your relationship? And when I say you, I'm talking about the association, right? What is your association's relationship with the TTPS like? Meaning, what role does the TTPS play by way of presence at the platforms? Because, you know, like everything is, as a student, I remember when we see estate constables, we don't give them as much respect as we would give the police. When you see the police, like the Red Sea, it parts and you just let the police be. So people's attitude and aptitude to estate officers or to be transit officers and so on may be different from the police. Do the police, are the police mandated, or do they have a steady, regular support for you all each day at the platforms? Are they there at specific times? What are the times they're there?
Well, I didn't want to divulge into that and say the specific times on national radio, but their presence are there. And their presence are there, as I say, they are 24-hour service, just like us. So their presence does be there from time to time. We just have some challenges with that. And right now we are in good dialogue with Mr. ASP Benjamin, and we seem to trying to forge a good relationship going forward. And from time to time, we will do assessment in terms of not necessarily risk assessment, but assessment of areas that we have challenges in, and we will need to request the assistance from the transit unit. And from time to time, again, we look at it. I think right now we're supposed to have our other meeting with him on the 16th of this month. We had one not too recently ago, and we had some discussion in terms of some of the challenges that we had. And he more or less streamlined some of the areas that we talk about, and we put work on it in terms of allocation of officers. And he gave us a window from now till the 16th to do assessment, and probably come back with him on the 16th to do our assessment in terms of progress, or a progress report on how so far is it going, and if it needs any more tweaking or development.
Tell us about the crime. Operators have been victims of a crime, I mean, from what I've read, for a number of years. There's a level of consistency with regard to that. What is the crime situation in terms of operators being victims of crime at the platforms? Is the security sufficient that you don't have that kind of problem, that the problems really position themselves along the routes where they may be more at risk on the routes as opposed to at the platform? So walk us through some of the crime exposures that your operators have been subject to.
Well, you talk about two areas there, and yes, the hub will have some challenges. And to me, in my humble opinion, you are greater exposed on the route because you are in a 25-seater Maxi or 12-seater Maxi with people that you pick up randomly, with the exception of some of the Maxis that work in communities like Lohokata and Maloney. Some of these people is regular travelers every day, so you will have a sense of understanding and knowing a couple of them. But generally speaking, on the route, you will be more exposed in the hub. But again, in the hub, when you have a crowd of people again going along the route from Port of Spain to Arima and Gandhi and so forth, you wouldn't know everybody. So there's a level of exposure. But like any other place in Trinidad and Tobago, crime is a major issue. And we are no different. We are affected by crime from time to time. What is happening in our industry, what we observe over the years, that it is a kind of seasonal thing from time to time. Maybe as we talk about local talk or local parents, when it have concerts, so coming around probably sometimes even when school opening or coming to Christmas, we just get the little now and again little snatchers, the little fellas and them who deem to be doing this because of whatever is happening in the social arena in terms of concert and so forth. And from time to time, you will have the other outside events where you will have people telling themselves, well, hey, a Maxi taxi, a 25-seater is an easy target to come on and rob the driver. Not only driver, but the commuters and them and all. And to me, that is totally unacceptable, but we are exposed to that.
In terms of crime, when I travel, I often see in the buses. Now it's you may see in buses where the driver is separated from the general public in terms of in my language, he's almost like in a cage. You can't really put your hand on it. The means of paying would be you don't have a conductor, you have somebody who he would be collecting the money at times, but the way the Maxi taxi drivers are sitting there, when he's sitting there with his back to 25 people, his back to 24 people, anybody can step up on him. I was in a Maxi, I remember years ago traveling, and a man sitting in the Maxi, normal, I didn't profile him in any kind of way. I mean, sometimes you see people and they trigger thoughts in their head as to, they're looking sketchy for whatever reason in your mind's eye. But the guy sat there and then leaned over the seat, stick the gun in the driver's waist and take the handful of money that was there, and the driver continued working normal. It's almost as if I felt he was really calm. I would have been traumatized and right there, the Maxi taxi. The people in the Maxi were traumatized. The driver seemed less so. How is that a normal occurrence? So when I say normal, surely in your experience in your 15 years, you must have heard of situations like that. Were you ever the victim of crime, or you've had a lucky 15, or safe 15 as we say?
Well, I wouldn't say luck. What I will say is that the grace and the mercy of God and his angels have been with me for the past 15 years, and I have not encountered any situation like that thus far. And I thank God for that. It really had nothing to do with me. It really had nothing to do with anything else, but just the mercy and the grace of God that he chose for I not to go through that extent. But it is a traumatic experience. And sometimes drivers in this work, because the demand in terms of the income to maintain and to operate and your commitments, sometimes you just have to shake off that and continue. But it is a traumatic experience. It is not a nice thing to go through. You just feel totally violated because that is your personal space. You just feel a complete victim because at the end of the day, you have not done anything to really deserve that. And sometimes in a lot of the cases, the drivers not so much concerned for themselves and their life, but they're also concerned about the passengers and the industry, because it does not augur well for the industry when the commuters and them are not safe.
What about, apart from the crime situation, we spoke about police presence there. I gather that you're quite pleased with the reception that you get from police in terms of their presence to ensure law and order and so on. There is no issue there.
No, I wouldn't say that. No, I ain't saying that. I ain't saying that. I'm saying it's not at where we would like it to be, but it is a work in progress. It is a work in progress, and that is what is available to us at this present time, and we're working on it to better it and to better the situation and the circumstance.
I see your colleague, Mr. James, is there. Welcome, Mr. James, Kareem James. To the listening public, Kareem James is a Maxi taxi operator. He would have been, I'm getting some feedback there. I don't know if it is, Mr. Knight, maybe you could take off your volume while I'm talking to James, so we can balance now. So
I believe the feedback is coming from by Mr. James.
All right.
Okay. Mr. James, could you control there's a sound that we're getting there on your end. I don't know if you could do something, get the gel out. But anyway, tell us something, Mr. James. How long have you been an operator?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Mr. Knights.
Mr. James.
9 years. Yeah. 9 years thus far.
9 years. What about in those 9 years that you've been an operator? Have you ever had an experience with crime in terms of being a victim of crime, robbery?
Yeah, good afternoon, sir. How are you going?
I'm okay. Not per se, but maybe once tried, but I was on to them.
An attempt. So you were fortunate. In your experience with your colleagues, meaning other operators, how often have you heard? How many times a year, as such, you would hear of instances of operators being robbed, being victims of crime? Is that a frequency, or it's something that happens time and again? How?
Well, that is seasonal.
Okay.
That is seasonal. I would say that is seasonal.
But when you
Because
say
if-
seasonal, what?
Meaning like right now, how books have to be buy, yeah, you're gonna get a little spike in crime.
Okay. What has your experience been like operating at the platform? What platform do you work?
I work the Maloney Lock platform.
In terms of your experiences as an operator, what are some of the challenges that you face? Things that you'd like to see improved at the platforms to enhance, how your operations as an operator.
Well, number one, security. Security.
Okay.
Security. You could come on the platform and basically do what you please after hours.
Okay. You want to elaborate on that? Is it that, all right, in talking to Mr. Nice, the president of the association, we were trying to glean from him what police presence is like. What in your experience has been the police presence between cooperating hours? Because I would imagine what you would like is to have more police presence during the substantive operating hours, meaning let us say between 6 in the morning and 9 when everybody's coming into City Gate. There's a heavy, I would imagine there's heavier traffic in terms of people presence because everybody's coming to work.
Yeah, that's you will call that like peak hours, but well, most times I can't lie. Most times, those are the hours that you will see police presence.
What has been some of the experiences that you all have been having in terms of police presence in the context of the people en masse? Let us put it this way. If you have 2 officers trying to secure 6 platforms, that in itself may not be practical. Is it that you have enough police per platform, meaning there's police presence at each platform to ensure that there's a balance, that there's support, that no one platform gets preference over others? In other words, the psychology of an officer being present at each platform will keep the traveling public intact in terms of ensure that they are their best behavior. And I would imagine that if it is you have police presence there also, anybody who is having any outlandish thoughts of committing any sort of mobbing, crime, robbing, in other words, putting the public and the operators at risk, that would tend to be eliminated if it is there's police presence and a signal is being sent that this area is under guard, in a manner of speaking. Is it that you would
security?
Right. Would you say that there or are there enough officers on duty?
No, there's not. There's not enough officers. Not enough. So
is it that there are platforms that don't have officers on from at peak hours at times?
Yeah, the communication is the problem. Because I would say some of the officers, they don't know what they're there for.
Do you have a relationship, or do the drivers communicate that with your president, so he can have a more open discussion with the authorities as to what are the needs of the operators like yourself, or what are the views? Do you all have that sort of dialogue meetings where you could communicate that with your president, and your president could therefore transfer the message, or bring the grievances of the drivers or the operators to the attention of the officers? Is there a system like that in place?
Well, now there's a system, as Mr. Knights has joined as he's president. Now we are seeing a slight change, and he just begun.
All right. In terms of the crime situation en route, what has your experience been, or what have been some of the experiences in your understanding, some of your peers? At Route 2, Route 2 covers from what Mr. Knight is saying, from Port of Spain all the way to Matlot.
To Matlot, yes.
in you know, I don't want to stigmatize areas, but you're in some areas there in terms of Maloney and La Joqueta that people traditionally look at in I don't want to say a negative way, but in a
as
in a
high crime
as high,
areas.
right. Are there enough Maxi servicing those areas? Is it that drivers are afraid to work in those areas? Because I mean, I guess you could be, you may count yourself to be somebody who can handle that kind of environment. Somebody else of a frailer disposition or a tamer demeanor may simply say, I ain't going there. What is the drivers? Who determines? Is it Mr. Knights that determine, hey, I want 4 operators working that Maloney La Joqueta route at all times, or is it left to the discretion of person like yourself to avail yourself?
No, it's with the discretion of the driver. If you comfortable working, let's say Arima, you work Arima. If you comfortable working La Joqueta, Maloney, Grandi, maybe where once you comfortable as the operator, that is what's most important.
In operating at the high risk areas or in the high risk zones, are there police presence where you all do the drop? Or I would imagine if you're going into La Joqueta or Maloney, it means it's getting into the community itself. Are there a specific, or is there a specific drop-off point? In the same way that there's a platform, I would imagine a specific drop-off point, or you go house to house in La Joqueta, Maloney. If there is a specific drop point,
there's a route in.
Yeah.
There's no specific drop point. There's a route.
Have there been instances in terms of the route? Because it being a route means to say that you're dropping anybody in any part of La Joqueta phase 1 to 5. What have your experience been like in terms of exposure to criminality?
Again, it's about discretion of the driver. If you decide to drop someone where they ask you to drop them and you're comfortable with dropping them at their door, so be it. But that is not how it's supposed to work.
All right. Now, in looking at your situation there, what are some of the, and I'm saying as from an operator's point of view, what are some of the changes that you would like to be seen done in terms of operations at the various platforms in Port of Spain? That City Gate area. What are the areas of improvement that you would suggest that the operators and the association address its mind to, or the authorities in terms of, I would imagine.
I would put it to the authority, and I would say the entire City Gate. It was built wrong. There's one offloading bay for 100, 1,000, 2,000 maxis to offload on one bay.
All right. Mr. Knights, let me ask you this. Many years ago, I remember as a student, maxis used to be, they used to load by Triad Express there and on the street, and you could take a maxi. Maxi used to pull up by Independence Square North and South, and then they created a space, I guess, where everyone should where you should fill up. Is there any law that says that you can't avoid City Gate and go fill on by Independence Square North and South now? Is it against the law to do that, Mr. Knights? Kareem, I think he froze on, maybe you can.
No, he's not frozen. He took off his mic. You told him to take off his mic.
Yes, there are restrictions on maxis outside there. Yes, there's restriction. Yes, there are restrictions. There are restrictions against maxi in the capital city, and you need.
All right. I'm hearing you. Do you think it was a good idea, or you think that because Kareem is saying that it's one area where you pick up and drop off there? I would imagine reference in City Gate, right? My question to you is, what's your take on that? Should there be another hub, a second hub?
I'm saying No, what I'm saying, I will answer your first part of the question. You're asking if you could go out and follow by express house and so. There are restrictions and maxis to enter the capital city. In order to enter the capital city, you have to have a city pass. And you must be able to appreciate this. How we used to function out there on Broadway in front of Express House. We have outlived that kind of experience. That was something that was not organized. It even had us more exposed, and it was totally disorganized that you could have full anyhow anyway. It was not systematic. Coming into Citygate is a more systematic that you will be able to have a fair share of the pie for everybody. The challenges with Citygate is that Citygate needs an overhaul in terms of infrastructure and in terms of allocating more safety and security and use some technology in terms of camera to assist with the safety and security. So that is what we are the association trying to look at, and it comes under the management of Citygate, which we have a proposal, a joint management proposal before the ministry. The problem with that, it is sitting down at the ministry for over 10 years. The current public utilities minister, Mr. Marvin Gonzalez, he was the chairperson of that committee because he was the legal advisor at the ministry at that point in time. And he put forth some recommendations to get that joint management in place. And we at the association wants to get that management of Citygate in place so that we can manage on our own affairs, generate some revenue so that we could ensure that we will have security in a manner that is becoming of the service that we provide, and it will be consistent. The problem that we just have with the TTPS, and not necessarily the TTPS, but the transit unit, is the inconsistency. But that unit itself has some issues coming from the top management, not necessarily the management of the transit unit, but the management of national security and OLEP, because they fall under national security and OLEP. And there are some challenges there with that unit, because the good officers in the transit unit, you must have to appreciate, if you in a unit, but you could aspire to betterment into TTPS, you will gravitate to go to TTPS once you get that opportunity. So from time to time, the manpower in the transit unit does dwindle because of the opportunity to advance over to the TTPS. So if we get management in Citygate, we will be able to provide our own safety and security on a holistic level from our association and a management point of view. And the ministry does not seem to understand that. Again, when you look at Maxi and taxis, they're of the opinion that everything is on the side of the road, with the exception of us and Yellowband and the little share that we have in Grandy. We are trying to move away from that mindset that Maxi falls under the essential service and you're supposed to treat it in a like manner. And it is a business.
Kareem, what is the security like in terms of how many, are there cameras on each platform that monitors what is the traveling public, that lifetime recordings where you could refer to footage if something occurs, where you can refer to footage on a day-to-day basis 24/7 on each platform?
No, there's no cameras. No cameras installed in Citygate.
So, Mr. Knights, so you're saying to me, we understanding this to be that if you and I get off air now and something was to happen in the last hour, we wouldn't be able to refer to camera footage, security camera footage, to try to ascertain in lifetime what transpired an hour ago?
Again, it's a work in progress. What I can tell you on the association building, we take the initiative to install some cameras on our building that will be able to span a certain distance. We are a work in progress to provide additional cameras on all the way. What is happening presently right now is that PTSC has stepped up to the plate a little and have tried to install some cameras on the overhead on the platform. There is a skywalk on top of it, so it can reach down to the scene on each individual platform. but the camera system that PTSC have installed so thus far is on a phase basis, and we're looking to move in the direction of getting it on all the platforms in the future. But there are a limited amount of camera footage, but it's not really to what we want and what we would like to have.
All right. Have you all engaged the private sector in terms of partnering with you all to ensure that there's greater security there by way of camera coverage? Or have you all engaged in that sort of relationship with corporate Trinidad and Tobago? Because by extension, I mean, what you all are providing is a service. It's a service for the public by private individuals like yourself at like you said in the beginning of the discussion, at rates that are affordable to the public. There ought to be some sort of quid pro quo. Everybody benefits when the tide rises at the sea level. Have you ever approached or thought of approaching the conglomerates in terms of providing you all with state-of-the-art cam? Because I can tell you this, I don't want to state the area that this is happening in, but there's a popular editorial that was carried about 3 months ago that the private sector began to work with the businesses in the community, meaning camera operation systems being installed along the Eastern Main Road. And but then what came out in the narrative is that the cameras, the quality of the footage wasn't good enough to actually, the pixel, the resolution, it wasn't good enough to capture images and faces. So when you have to actually arrest an individual, the overview, the panoramic view you have, the camera wasn't of that high quality. Have you all had these discussions, consider all of these factors to work with the private sector in terms of ensuring that the best possible quality camera operating system or the best possible security operating system could be put in place rather than depend solely on operators and their contribution? And what was that reception like? What progress have you?
Yes, it is very good. Yes, it's very well from the private sector, but the challenge comes back to management of Citygate. We are on the property here that belongs to the PTSC. That's the Public Service Transportation, which is an arm of the state. So the lands that we are on here is owned by the state, and they deem it to be a heritage site. So the issue here of managing the compound, you have to ask for permission to do anything. So yes, we have engaged the private sector and other conglomerates because let me say right now, about 80% to 85% of the vehicles here is from a particular conglomerate in Trinidad and Tobago. We also have other people from other makes of vehicle here, Toyota, Nissan, and so forth. So we have a variety of people, and they know that we do a lot of good business with them. So it's not that they're not on board with us, but the issue and the challenge is to get our authorization and our permission to do certain things on the compound. And the only time we will be able to do that is if we are able to manage the compound via a lease arrangement, like our counterparts in the yellow band. They have a lease arrangement in place, and they are able to manage their own affairs. They have a camera system, and I'll just talk it here. They have a camera system that assists the port. You hear what I'm telling you? Because it could spin on the parametric view, could view down there. And they install that on their own individually because they have a lease arrangement and they manage their own affairs. And that is what we are aspiring to here. And for the life of me, the minister and those at the ministry does not seem to understand the vision. And the problem I have with that is that I have the opinion, when you look at certain events happening in Trinidad and Tobago, it seems that the government and the powers that be at the day does not want the resources that belongs to Trinidad and Tobago really be handled or be in the hands of the average citizen. Classic example, Petrotrin. Classic example, us and our priority bus route pass. They have an issue with these things, and that should not be.
All right. Kareem, tell me something. As an operator, I would imagine that given the amount of use that your bus is under, the amount of mileage a Maxi taxi carries on a day-to-day basis is not like somebody like myself who drives to work and park up all day. the nature of the work is you're on the move all the time.
Yeah, this is a moving vehicle.
Does the operators or the operators in relation to the association, or let me put it this way, what sort of a relationship does the association have with you all in the context of forging relationships with suppliers that you all get tires at reduced costs, you all get things to help reduce your operating costs, parts for vehicles? Do you all have relationships with organizations that give you discounted rates because you're a member of the association? Is that the direction that the association has taken you all as operators in?
It wasn't placed before.
So Mr. Nice on the spot now, he had to ensure that he continued the tradition of.
Yeah, he was going to put it in place.
All right. But I'm simply asking that because I could imagine the wear and tear on vehicles. You're running 24/7, and the Maxi ain't getting a chance to breathe. At the end of the day, it's you sleep for 2 hours. Yeah, Mr. Knight, I'm hearing you.
Yeah, can I interject? We wanted to carry it a little further. We approached the government some years ago, and we asked them to remove the motor vehicle and the VAT tax on maxi taxis. It have other people who are enjoying that. Even government ministers are enjoying that luxury of getting a vehicle imported or coming into the country every 5 years duty free. We provide a tangible service to this country. You know, when the economy is down, we are still there. We are there turning and toiling day to day. Mr. Franklin Khan bought a cabinet note to Parliament asking for that. And it was implemented shortly. And then, a matter of fact, they didn't implement it properly and they didn't implement it in the way that we wanted. And we had to get a rebate. But we are still looking to get that implemented where you could remove the motor vehicle and the VAT tax on maxi taxi so that we could get this cost of maxi taxi at a reduced cost. And we are looking to do other things along that line. But the government have a role to play. And again, it may sound like it are sounding anti-government, but the problem that we having with the powers that be is that they're not listening. You are the people who are their employers. We employ them, we hire them, and entrusted Trinidad and Tobago affairs into their hands. And from time to time, when you tell them what you want or what you would like, and you have a fair idea to work out the logistics of how it could be operationalized, they shoot you down.
Well, they must give you a reason why they shoot you down. Well, they wouldn't just ignore your calls. Well, what are some of their views in terms of, are they thinking that you're too demanding, that to ask for stamp duty removal and that sort of thing is something that should only be beholden to they as ministers, and they marginalize you all as operators?
Well, again, I see the discussion, again, when you look at probably the tax and then probably the revenue, they seem that probably shouldn't be done. And then probably if we ask for it and we get it, probably other sectors will ask for it also too. So they probably see a domino effect going down the road. But again, you must be able to look at what the service somebody, I could tell it that people, I will say, people at Hyatt, them enjoy that too. The taxi service who have taxis at the Hyatt, them enjoy that. We are no different, and days where we just have the problem with certain things, even with the priority bus route pass, to get it transferred to your next of kin in the case of death or in the case of health challenges, we don't get it. They will do it from time to time, but we're asking for a policy to be put in place to treat with that in a holistic manner and a sustainable manner. If you have a bar license, you are able to transfer your bar license if you are not able to operate it, you could pass it on to your relative. You could even transfer it to somebody else. Same thing with a pharmaceutical license. And we asking to be treated in a like manner as business people. And for some reason, the state is not understanding that. And they are of the opinion that this priority bus route pass is the sole responsibility of them and also the property of them. And it is not so. But we have some challenges with that. And you can't tell me somebody work in this work.
Walk If the bus route pass that you acquire is in your name, Brenton Knights, and then you decided that, well, let's say you retire from the work, you make enough money and decide you're going to stay home and watch TV. You're saying that the pass that is in your name, you can't just hand it over to a relative, a nephew or a son who wants to drive. So the bus route pass is really assigned to Brenton Nice, the individual, a named individual to work the bus route. He can't hand the pass over to another man and he uses it, another driver.
No.
Okay.
You could have a driver on it. You could have a driver on the pass, but the pass holder is you. What the ministry has done a couple of years ago, they have slipped in a clause under a conditional provision that the pass is the property of the Ministry of Works and Transport. That is a provisional clause. It was not there in the body of the regulation, but the body of regulation gives the minister the authority to make clauses or make conditions on the permit. And they made that as a condition, and they're trying to hold that as law, that the pass is the property of the Ministry of Works. But it's not so. But again, these things need to be challenged and need to work out and iron out, because they do transfer pass from time to time, but they don't have a proper policy in place. So it is the transfer that's happening at their whim and their fancy. If they feel to do it this month, or if they feel to do it next couple of months, or if the minister change or the permanent secretary change and they hear reply, okay, they may do some transfers. But right now, presently, they're not doing no transfers and they're not taking no applications for transfer, which is totally unfair. If a man is the sole breadwinner, right? And the Maxi taxi and the PBR pass is his business. Driving Maxi is his job, is his occupation. You are not asking to transfer his occupation. You are asking to transfer his business, which is the Maxi and the pass, to his next of kin, because he's not able to work right now. He's sick, he's bedridden. He would like that to be transferred so that his family could take care of him in his latter years with some dignity after serving the country for so many years. It happens in other business and in other sectors, but Maxi is an issue. Why? I do not understand. The only conclusion I could come to is that they don't want this lucrative resource of Trinidad and Tobago to be in the hands of the average citizen. The bus route has always been a political football from time to time.
What is the criteria and how much does it cost? We're talking money. How much does it cost in terms of, is there to get a PBR pass? Is there a cost attached in the application? Well, how expensive is this process?
There's no cost attached to get the pass, but you have to pay for the use of the pass, and the pay or the use of the pass is an annual fee. It used to be quarterly, right? I have to pay, I've been watching up to it up or 1,200.
All right. But that
is 1,200 and annually I have to pay to use the pass.
I would imagine there's a waiting list to get a pass. How difficult it is?
Yes.
How difficult it is to get a pass? Could be on a waiting list for how long?
Very difficult. Myself and Mr. Kareem has been on a waiting list for our pass that we have right now, 5 years.
5 years and 4 months.
So you're saying that two of you on a waiting list to get a PBR pass?
Was on a waiting list. And we had to fight. We had to fight the ministry, and we had to fight them, and they went kicking and screaming to understand that the system was not working, and they did some rectification of it, and it seems to be moving along a certain way, but they're still not taking the advice from the people in the system on how to get the system to work properly. We asked them, the deceased president has asked them, was to close off the list, because it is a quota system, and any quota system, you must appreciate, will have a quota, a close-off period. Even in your job on the radio station here, the vacancy is not open indefinite. It's only when vacancies become available, then you put out an ad stating that there are vacancies in different departments, and when these vacancies are filled, that is it, until vacancies become available again. Am I correct?
Well, I hear you on that regard. Kareem, what was the reasoning offered to you that you have to wait that long? What was the reason for the delay, 5 years delay? Because I'm sure you would have been making calls and turning up in the right places, asking the relevant questions.
They had no answer for you. No answer. They keep telling you there's no pass available for you, Mr. James. No pass available for you, Mr. James. That's all for 5 years.
So tell me something. Let me interject here. This is David McIntyre at Power 102. Tell me something. Was that illegally operating along the bus route? How did you deal with that? Where legality is concerned, operating your maxis without a pass?
No, you have to operate on the eastern.
Oh, so you have to come off the bus route and work on the eastern main road.
You can't drive on the bus without a pass.
Oh my God. Okay.
And even more so now with the demerit points, even more so now with the demerit point system, and you're getting fine and points. Maybe from time to time a guy will say, okay, but I'm charging, but that is not the case. That is not the case. The system is not working properly, and they're not listening to us in terms of how you could get the system working properly for everyone. As I say, it's a quota system, and you're not denying anybody the opportunity to come into the work, but at the end of the day, it cannot be left open indefinitely, and you leave people vulnerable to be buying and making it better. Let me just draw this example. If you want to go and invest on Wall Street, all the stocks and all the available information are there for you to be able to make an informed decision of where you want to invest and what you not want to invest in. And that is there right there. So if the system has information, hey, there are no pass available right now, and the list is closed off, when pass come available, we will open it. You can make an informed decision. Hey, look, passes are available right now. I could go and make an investment over $500,000, and I'm almost certain within the next month or two, I will be able to get returns and provide the service that comes with getting that pass. But that is not the case.
Tell me something. I've seen that you touched on the demerit point system. The management of Citygate had appealed for a review of the demerit point system, right? Because in 2022, it was issued by the Ministry of Works and Transport, and any person or any maxi taxi standing for hire at a place not appointed for the purpose is subject to a fine of $750 and 3 demerit points applied against their license. How you see that as for or against the operations?
Well, we have an issue with it, and it just recently had a consultation up at the Ministry of Works and Transport, and I attended. And to me, to the best of my knowledge, I was the only individual that presented them with a document, a working document, for a complete review of the U-turn system. And when you talk about applying for hire, the issue with applying for hire, when you look at it in law, it is not clear. Because in order for you to apply for hire, you have to stand. And sometimes when you're standing for hire, you could be applying for hire. Then how could you give somebody standing for hire or applying for hire in a place not appointed when that is on your route? Route 2 Maxi Taxi operates from Port of Spain to Arima. So on the route where they are, that is your route. How could you get a standing for hire and applying for hire in a non-designated area on the route that you are designated to work? The issue with that is that standing for hire and applying for hire in legal terms is not clear because it is interchangeable. You can get charged for standing for hire and you can also get charged for applying for hire. But how could you charge me for applying for hire on my route that my vehicle is an aged vehicle to apply for hire on that route?
It even puts pressure on the people who are traveling, the commuters, because let's say there's a particular space where they have provided for you to stop and apply for hire or stand for hire, like they say, but it is very far from the people who are commuting. I mean, they should understand that like you said, it's on your route.
You see the challenge with that, and I will tell you about the bus route in particular. You must appreciate that the bus route was not conceptualized, and still to this day, it is not really conceptualized with the design in mind for maxis to be operating on it, and also to have emergency vehicles and police vehicles and all these other vehicles running on the bus route. It was really conceptualized and designed for PTSC buses. And PTSC buses, mode of transportation, is different to Maxis. Maxis, way how they operate, is a unique mode of transportation. Very unique.
Yeah.
And when you look at the infrastructure on the bus route, it really, up to this day, really not accommodating for maxi taxis. So that is why you will have the little challenges from time to time where you'll see a maxi pull up here. Yes, we have road drivers. Yes, we have guys who need a little tweaking and need a little discipline here and there. But the infrastructure on the bus route really was not conceptualized for maxis to be in there together with the buses, together with the emergency vehicles and commuters. And then that is why I have a little concept talking about congestion zones for Curep, for Sawa, for even Tunapuna market, to treat in a particular way where you have all these events happening at the same time by these intersections. It needs some attention, and it needs some attention in terms of designating spots for the maxis, designating spots for the pedestrians, and letting everybody know that this zone here, you have to treat it in a particular manner because of the volume of people and activities that is taking place simultaneously. You have maxis dropping up, you have maxis picking up, you have people crossing, you have all these different things. Then you have sirens with emergency vehicles coming through. It has a lot of things taking place at one time.
I understand. Fareed.
When we look at the plight of maxi drivers, I hear you with regard to the bus route was essentially created for buses, not the drivers. What, in your experience as an operator, what would you like to see happen futuristically moving forward to improve your plight as an association, bearing in mind that the operators have challenges like you described? What would you want seen done? I know you mentioned the situation that would greatly assist, but I think that's a pie in the sky. That's a utopia. Those ministers, the politicians ain't going and give all of that blight. I mean, it could take a revolution to change that, and we're not into that in this country.
Well, where we need, we will be using we need, and we'll keep praying, and we'll have a higher being who does touch the heart and move the heart of men. But so be it. But the bus route, in terms of infrastructure, you have PTSC buses having terminals to come in, and they have terminals where people could stand up and wait, and people could do commerce and get different services before boarding the buses. You have bus routes, you have bus stops along the way with shed and so forth. If you're moving in that direction for them, then you need to move that in that direction also to accommodate the maxi taxis, and you need to move it in such a way that you'll be able to facilitate the commuters and them, because we have to appreciate we in the rainy season. Just like what the other presenter said, some of the stops that you may try to put as designated stop, they are far away from where the access to the commuters, and even more so now, there is no shelter. There is no shelter.
Yes.
And there is no proper maintenance. Even for the bus sheds and them, there are no proper maintenance. Sometimes these bus sheds end up being homeless shelters. We have an issue in this country of maintenance and management consistently. That is the problem. We just put things into place, but the long-term management and maintenance or keep of it is what does be our challenge. After we spend all that money to bring it into play, it does fall down by the wayside in a couple of years.
When I look at the Citygate hub for maxi taxis, well, what you said a while ago, it's confusing to know that you guys share the bus route. Let's leave out the emergency vehicles. You guys share the bus route with the buses, and you come into the same area. So I don't understand how they don't put things in place so that it will be there'll be more equity, if I should say. And I know we have to go just now. Tell me something. Should, in case, let's say, some fairy godmother should talk to these people in authority, the politicians, especially Ministry of Works officials, the management, or the people who are the line ministry for the PTSC compound. Should there be a restructuring of that area? I know, like you said, it would be nice to see you guys have your own washroom facilities, your own area for commerce and things. What will be the eventuality? How would you guys operate if that area was supposed to undergo a restructuring? How would the Maxi taxis operate coming into the City Gate area to drop off their passengers and stuff? That would have a whole lot of taking, right?
Yeah, it will be a total revamp in the sense that the whole ambience, because we mindset is to provide a proper ambience to the traveling public. And I will even go further in terms of safety. We propose that we have a little tower there. We propose in hopefully not to do the sun future for there to be a command center where you will have monitors upstairs. They've been monitored by security officials at all the platforms, all the bay, and be able to even have a link with the response unit and them along the bus route, and to be able to be integrated probably with the camera system along the bus route, that if something happens along the bus route, we will be able to notify our drivers and then, hey, here we're going, and they may have to divert off of the bus route because this intersection or this part of the bus route is blocked off because of some situation or whatever the case may be, or proceed along the bus route in this vicinity here with extra caution because something has happened. That is our vision for here, you know.
Yeah.
But it will take a lot of work, and it will take a lot of political will to work with us to get it to that.
Should that happen, I know you guys would be in a better place with commerce added to the facility. I know it will put you guys in a better place to function. I pray that
Of course.
I pray that you guys will succeed. Because I look at the place there, and it's in a total mess. You know, I know things can be done to improve the facility there in a big way and make it more, attractive.
Gentlemen, I'd like to thank you for making yourself
you
available. Thank you for making yourself available to us. It's a good conversation we had in terms of highlighting some of the challenges that you all face on a day-to-day basis. Thank you for the service you've been providing. Nobody can assign value to what you all do. It's a risk you take, and it's a risk that you manage pretty well. Mr. James haven't been robbed as yet, and you've gotten away. When I read in the newspaper, I was looking at, I'm saying that to say, there was an article, Killers Target Taxi Drivers, page 8 of the Sunday Guardian. So far, it's indicated here, this is not a Maxi taxi stat, this is a taxi driver stat. Last year, 9 drivers were killed. So far this year, 7 taxi drivers were killed. So Maxi drivers not dying, that could only be a good thing. You all have plenty pluses in your direction. When we look at the stats through the years, an analysis shows that in the last 31 months, which is 2022 to present, 24 drivers were killed, compared to 24 murders from 2015 to 2021. This is what the taxi drivers in various communities are exposed to. So when we look at what you all have been the recipients of, it's challenges that you've managed to evade. It could only mean that the national security is doing the correct thing when it comes to define routes. If you were working off-route, that's a different dilemma. But thanks again, Mr. Knights. I'll invite you another occasion to get an update. It's good to be in tune and in touch with you all. Mr. James, you and I have another discussion. We have to invite you to carry another kind of discussion. But it's wonderful to see you all and keep up the good work. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ali. Thank you for having us, and thank you to Power 102, and do appreciate. Thanks to the commuters, thanks to the Maxi taxi operators for listening, and God bless.
Okay, thank you, my brother.
Have a good one.
Okay, you too. Be safe.
So the listening public, we've had the benefit of two of the Maxi operators, the president and another driver, operator, Mr. Kareem James, with us this afternoon. So we've had a brief discussion, just trying to highlight what they've been undergoing, the challenges they've been facing. In our closing segment, I took the opportunity to liaise or have a dialogue with Ms. Elpeth Duncan. Ms. Duncan, I know you're online. If you could turn on your camera, it would be great to see you, and we could put a face to the name. Ms. Duncan, if you're there, it would be good to see you. To the listening public, we're gonna carry a discussion with Ms. Elpeth Duncan. She penned an article that was on the Newsday, the Newsday on Sunday, the 4th of August. And as I read it, what attracted my attention to her was the representation she was making for animal rights. David, is Ms. Duncan there? Ms. Duncan, you can turn on your camera if we can see you.
I don't know if you can hear. Every time
I'm hearing you. Feel free to turn on your camera.
It doesn't come on. It doesn't come on when I press it. I don't know if you have to let me in.
Well, I've already allowed you on stage. Let me try again.
Okay, it's saying to press command.
Okay, you're being disconnected.
We
got a slide picture just now, and then you disappeared.
Okay, that's.
David, is it that we need to do something more on our end, or maybe she can log off and log back on?
Well, I don't know if her camera is giving problems, but let's continue, and maybe she'll come on.
All right, Ms. Duncan, perhaps you could try to. We're seeing, I'm seeing those books on your shelves every now and then. But anyway.
Well, I know books on the shelf. So what you're seeing is the other man keeps popping back on, who was on the last interview.
All right, I hear you.
Okay, you're there with us now. We're just not seeing you. Is there a mechanism for you to turn your camera on?
I thought my camera was on.
No, your audio is fine. All right, I've lost you again. Let me try to put you up again. Okay, let's work with this in the meantime.
Sorry.
So, Ms. Duncan, tell us about yourself. You penned an article.
Hold on to it. Let me get her back on stage here. Okay, let's work with this. All right. So we'll use the audio. Yeah.
Ms. Duncan, you penned an article under the rubric of political parties must address animal welfare.
Right.
Protection. Now, tell us about your vision in relation to greater attention being put on animal rights and greater attention being placed on political parties carrying that sort of mandate, meaning that they recognize the need for legislation support. Yeah.
Sorry about that. Some children are running past in the road. Well, all this comes with the territory of animal.
Yeah.
If I had my way, I would let the dogs out.
The dogs want to have their say. And I also think I figured out what's going on with the camera. When I click on settings, it says something here. Anyway, well, first of all, I'm based in Tobago, and I run an animal welfare, rescue and welfare NGO called Venus Daughters of Love. So on a daily basis, issues of neglect and cruelty are a factor every single day. There are a lot of cases of animal cruelty, and a lot of animal rescuers in Trinidad and Tobago can also attest to that fact, that animals are very often abused, neglected. Some of the cases are so horrific that sometimes people can't even look at them, hear about them. And the sad thing about it is that the enforcement of the laws, that's just not happening. So the frustration and the sense of hopelessness that comes with that in terms of how can these animals be protected? How can their welfare be just brought to the fore? That just is not something that is happening in Trinidad and Tobago, and it's been going on for decades. So I personally, and I'm sure almost everybody out there listening can attest to this, I've never heard any politician get up on their platform and speak about animal welfare issues in the ways that they may speak about crime, the financial aspects, all those other things that they normally address on the political platform. And the reason for this is probably that they feel a lot of people don't see animals as an important part of the society, but animals are an integral part of the society for many reasons. They're also sentient beings like us. They have feelings, they have rights, and these feelings and these rights are not recognized because in the laws, the animals are recognized as property, basically. Property is like if you have a table or you have a house, etc. But animals are not tables and houses. They're not inanimate beings. And I think, well, it actually baffles me that a party or politicians, anybody getting up on that podium or anyone wishing to win favor with the voting public has not addressed the issue of animals, because a wide sector of the Trinidad and Tobago population is made up of animal lovers and people who would like to see animal-related issues addressed politically and supported by the government. I know that politics is a lot of talk, a lot of promises, and not very often the action follows up. And that's what we want to see regarding animals. There are things that we've brought to the table and things that, in my articles that I write for the Newsday, it's gotten to the point where some people say, gosh, she's writing about animals again. But I have to, because they are voiceless and they need to have a voice. I personally am not into politics, but if I was, I would be that politician that deals with it. It's very important. Maybe I'm rambling now. You could kind of bring me back on track.
Not at all. But we tend to associate animals with.
Hold on, Farid.
You just saw me?
Yeah. Are you there? Yeah. We tend to associate animals.
Yeah, in and out. Don't play with the devices. When I put you on stage, we'll continue and we'll be comfortable with how we have you on stage. So she's not there right now. Okay, let me see. Okay, here she is.
All right. Me?
Yeah, no. You're back with us now.
You're back with us.
All right.
So, the thing is, people associate not animals with, they're just there for the purposes of the pets that the pet service that they provide. And not everyone may view with such strong views your perspective.
But I would not say that, because we have a comment here by Terry Osborne that says they have personalities. So they're not just pets. Mm-hmm. They have personalities. And before you continue, Farid, I would like to just say, based on the legislation that you probably would like to see the politicians put in place for protection and the welfare and stuff, shouldn't be going to tend to follow a lot of what they see happening in America and these foreign countries. But in America, they have very, very stringent laws when it comes to animal protection and their welfare.
Mm-hmm. They do.
Yes. So
if I can just say something here. You mentioned pets. Now, pets, of course, are animals, and they range from not just dogs and cats. People have all kinds of pets.
Yeah.
But to me, in the case of this discussion, an animal is an animal. An animal is a sentient being. That's the most important part. Whether it's a goat, whether it's a rat, whether it's a what, animals have feelings. And these laws and the fact that we need to speak up for animal welfare. It's not just about pets. Pet owners are a vast cross-section of society, and those who care about their pets really do. Some of them refer to it as my fur baby and whatever, you know, that's their baby, that's their child. They treat that animal as if it's their child, and the animal deserves to be treated with that level of attention, the love, the care, the food, clean water, you know, making sure, and proper shelter, freedom, the basic rights of an animal is to have those things. Just as a basic right of a human being is to have those things. If you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs with the shelter, the food, the love, etc., it's the same thing for an animal. Now, this does not just relate to pets. For example, in Tobago has a lot of livestock. You just see them, you know, a traffic jam in Tobago is like goats and cows crossing the road. And a lot of people have their goats and their livestock walking all over the place. They're not tethered, they're not thing. But also you have situations where there's a recent situation where there was a sheep with a leg that was being practically eaten away by maggots, but it was not being tended to. That is neglect. Neglect is neglect. Okay, somebody might think neglect is like, oh, you didn't give your dog water today. These severe forms of neglect where you find animals that, for example, there's a dog in Crown Point. The other day, he had a little wound on his neck, and I was trying to catch him to put some negacent to kill out any potential maggots. I couldn't catch him, he kept running. Flash forward to weeks later, the other day, about 3 people called me, hello, there's this dog in Crown Point, blah, blah, blah. This dog's little thing that he had on his neck escalated to the point where he now has a massive hole in his head and a massive hole at the side of his body. And he's running around with this. And the sad thing about it, but the common thing about it, is that he has an owner. So, and the owner is fully aware of the state of this dog, but nothing has been done. Now, these are things that are addressed in the laws of the land. If you go to report that to a police station, they might either laugh at you, they may not do anything, or they themselves might have dogs at home looking like that, you know? So these things it's reached the point where these things are seen as normal and acceptable because it's so common, and it should not be common. I just want to dig into the Animals, Diseases and Importation Amendment Act 2020. So part 3A, can I just do that?
You can do that.
Yeah. Section 26, part 3A, animal welfare and stray animals. So I just highlighted some parts that I want to point out. 18A, number 1, any person who cruelly beats, ill-treats, starves, overdrives, overrides, overloads, abuses, tortures, neglects, or otherwise maltreats any animal, not just dogs and cats, any animal commits an offense. Then they go on to explain what all of that means. You know, these laws are kind of long-winded, so let me just skip forward. So they list a set of stuff that are offenses, and those offenses, as they get to the end, are, I'll get to what the actual fine is when towards the
I have
end.
the
I'm just going
legislation in front of me, so you can refer to the section.
Okay, great. So 18I, number 1, an owner or person in charge of an animal shall provide such animal with sufficient and suitable diet, access to sufficient and clean water, proper shelter and housing, which are appropriate for the animal's behavioral patterns and reasonably sufficient to protect the animal from unsuitable weather conditions, etc., and veterinary care when needed to treat and prevent suffering and disease, and suitable accommodations during transportation. I mean, even something like chickens. Okay, I see people see chickens as food. Chickens are animals before they become food. So the way that even a chicken is transported in those crates, or whatever you want to call them, plastic crates in the hot sun in the back of a truck, crammed together, stressed. And this is not humane meat production. I personally don't eat meat, but I'm not going to jump on anybody who does, or anybody who is in the meat business, but at least treat animals humanely in the process.
Well,
But all of these,
I know a woman who her cat ran into some kind of problem. I don't know if somebody took advantage of it or if it ran into the street and was knocked down by a vehicle or something like that. But she takes particular good care of that cat. She amazes me at the level of care she has with this cat. I want to ask something also. Those laws that you were defining there a while ago, tell me, is there any law against people who would like they got fed up of the pet or the animal they have at home and just let it
Dumped
go on
it?
the streets and
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, dumping is dumping is in my book cruelty. So any person, as I'll repeat it, who cruelly beats, ill treats, to dump is to ill treat. If somebody dumped you on the street and just left you in the middle of the rainforest, they tend to drop them far away from home so they can't make their way back.
Yeah.
That's ill treatment. Starving, that is also starving the animal. Overdrives, overrides, blah, blah, blah. Abuses, tortures, neglects, that's also neglect. So at least 3 things in that, or otherwise maltreats an animal. All of that is dumping. Let me just, now the thing about proper shelter, also important. You see a lot of dogs locked up in these boxes. When I say box, it's like a box. They call it a pen. They make, a pen. I'm going to build a pen for my dog. And a pen is this little box. And for example, one example, I ride my bike along this street and, the dog is locked up in this box. And it's a common thing. We see it Tobago in particular. I'm sure a lot of people in Trinidad see it too. And this is the kind of thing that should not be allowed. We need to have regulations for if you must put your animal in a pen, so to speak, or a kennel or whatever, there must be regulations. The size, the way it is built, if an animal is tethered, a dog on a short rusty chain where it could strangle itself, where it cannot even sit down, is not acceptable. If your dog is chained, it must be a certain length. The dog must also be taken for walks. Dogs need exercise. There are dogs that are crammed up in kennels that I've seen like inches high of feces dried and packed up on the floor of that kennel because that dog has been left in there unattended with the kennel uncleaned. Would that human being like to be put in the same kennel? And the answer is no. A lot of these things that humans do to animals, you have to stop and ask yourself, would I like this to be done to me? Do unto others as you would like to do unto you. Refers to animals as well. Let me just quickly go on to these laws. So
feel free to name the section. Feel free to name the section.
I will. Okay, so I'm jumping ahead to section, which section is this boy? 28, 21, okay, section 28, 21, 3E. So anybody who tortures, beats, injures, mutilates, neglects, or treats with cruelty any animal or overloads any animal in contravention of section 18A, which I read out first, is liable to commits an offense and is liable on summary conviction to a fine of $200,000 and imprisonment for a term of 5 years. It doesn't even say or, it says and. So that's $200,000 and imprisonment for terms of 5 years. Now, the jails would be overcrowded and the amount of fines would probably add up to millions and billions of dollars because the amount of people who are committing offenses by the basic way that they treat their animals, probably more through ignorance. And by ignorance, I mean maybe they just don't know better, or maybe they think that that is the way, but it's not the way. And, these things have to go hand in hand with education. And a lot of people say, educate the children in the primary schools. problem with that is the children go home and their parents are the ones, no, you learn that in school. No. And then the parent would go and do the same thing that they've been doing because their grandfather and their grandmother and whoever way back when for generations taught them to do it, like pouring old diesel on a dog to get rid of its ticks and fleas. And no matter how you tell them, no, that's toxic, would you rub diesel old oil on your skin? They always say no. So then the next question is, well, why are you doing it to your animal? And sometimes all it takes.
I want to add something to the equation here,
Uh-huh.
where the people who you can point fingers to as cruelty to animals, etc., etc. You know, when we have national celebrations, Christmas, Diwali, and all of that, fireworks and stuff, that is something I dislike plenty.
Oh yeah, well, you're one of many.
How do you put those kind of laws into effect when some of the fireworks and stuff are carried out by ministries or people who are in authoritative positions of organizations and stuff?
I hear you, and that's the answer to that is very simple. To begin with, there's a group called the Fireworks Action Committee, Fireworks Actions, something or the other, standing for FACT. FACT is what they stand for. And they have been approaching the AG over and over and over to address this issue, and they have not been receiving any response. You know, like when you're talking to somebody, but it's like you're really just talking to a wall because they're not getting responses. And, you know, they're bringing facts, they're bringing all kind of stuff. But just to go back to your question, to me, fireworks are archaic. They're senseless, they're noisy, they're terrifying, they traumatize people and animals, they're dangerous. The amount of houses that have burnt, people have been injured. I mean, the evidence is all there that fireworks are not something that conducive to our society. Yes, people like to see big explosions. Maybe they like to hear explosions. You know, we have this big gun culture and everybody thinks it's so trendy to have a gun. You know, maybe a firework is like their big dream of guns, and who knows? You know, everybody probably has a different reason for wanting to hear these explosions. But the other day, Grenada set a wonderful example of having a huge laser light show. That the whole stadium, they had it in the National Stadium, and the stadium, the people were screaming, they were crying. I myself was crying watching this thing on YouTube. It was so well done. It was so moving. It was so modern. Fireworks are archaic. Fireworks were created by the Chinese in, you know, how many centuries ago? You know, it's just gunpowder. We need, you know,
that new modern day style are done by drones. I appreciate that.
drones. And then they accompany it with wonderful music, cinematic music. You know, they could be reaching out to young people. You know, you want to motivate the young people. Reach out to the young people and say, hey, this Independence Day in Trinidad, we're going to have a massive drone show in the Savannah or wherever they decide to have it, in the Gulf, so everybody could see it. And we want you young people to compose the anthem for this celebration, and the winner will get, you know, $300,000 or whatever. Inspire them to be creative, whether they want to come with their rapping or whatever they want to do. Some steel band might come up with some fantastic orchestral thing that just like, wow, you know, inspire the nation, blow them away with creativity, not with fireworks. You know,
because I've seen for myself what fireworks did to people, the injuries sustained. I've also seen where some people have lost their dogs because the dogs were running away crazily, and they never come back. But it's hard to imagine that the Ministry of this and that and the other will host a fireworks display in the Savannah, and right next to it is the Emperor Valley Zoo.
Exactly.
So it's mind-boggling that these people can't do that, but there are laws about cruelty to animals.
Yeah. Well, you know, as you say, money talks. And we all know what that means, you know. But if they were really compassionate, and to have a compassionate government, because I want to bring this back to politics. we do not have anybody. I can speak for myself. There's nobody in the political landscape of Trinidad and Tobago that has ever inspired me or ever moved me. You see, like how Kamala Harris is like, everybody is donating and everybody is excited and they're like this wave of change because of her, and people are inspired by her. Young girls want to grow up and be like her. I can't think of any politician in Trinidad and Tobago that anybody wants to grow up to be like. And I don't mean that in an insulting way. It's just a fact that, you know, we need inspiring and compassionate people as our leaders. We need people to listen to us. How long have these, and I say these, including myself, and, you know, the TFPCA and the Animal Welfare Network in Trinidad and Tobago, they have done a lot of work with the Dog Control Act and with, you know, writing letters to the Minister of Agriculture, hoping for him to, you know, play his role in getting those laws moving and whatever needs to be done. And nobody seems to listen. In fact, the FACTT, the Fireworks Action Coalition, the amount of times we've written to the AG and he doesn't listen, you know, to have somebody compassionate who would listen, who would say, I hear you, I hear you, and let me meet with you. Let's discuss this. Let's see how we can work this out. Let's see, you know, somebody like that, you know, like a relationship. If you have a relationship with someone that you love, you want to sit down and listen to that person. You want to make sure that person feels good. You want to make sure, you know, all those things that come with being a good relationship, a good partner. The government is our partner, but they don't act like that.
Greg Wycliffe is, I hope I'm pronouncing your surname correct, sir, is in agreement with you. He said the police are a joke when it comes to animal protection. We have reported incidents and animal neglection, but they look at you with a dotish face. Why do the government make laws and do not follow through with the punishments? Trinidad and Tobago is a full of fashion island or country. Look at who you have to rely to implement the law. Whoa, they are an embarrassing lot of jokers. Well, you know, I am the program before, and I've done many programs in co-hosting with some of these people that come onto Power 102. And most instances, it's a matter of the people who are in authority, they're not working with the people from the ground up at no time at all. Like you said, they don't listen. Everybody keeps saying that. They don't listen, they don't listen, they don't listen. They operate from the ivory towers and they just do things and make laws, but implementation is another thing of its you know, so.
But, you know, I think everybody is human. So even though I've said those things about politicians, I don't think it's easy to be a politician at all. And they are human. They, like animals, they also have feelings. We all have feelings. And I think as members of the public, we attack them. When I say attack, not physically, but, you know, like people say things about them, or they didn't do this, they didn't do that. And to be honest, it takes a lot to run a country. But whether it's running a country or whether it's let's bring this back to animals. Even the animal rescue and welfare world is like a wheel. It's like something with cogs, different cogs working. You know, some people focus more on spay and neuter. Some focus more on let's lobby against the fireworks thing. Some deal more with the actual, like for me, I'm very hands-on with the actual rescuing and that kind of stuff. You know, so we all play different roles, and it should be a machine that works harmoniously. It isn't always like that because a lot of people just work on their own. But if we all came together harmoniously as a group, I've never seen animal rescue and welfare people come together as a unit, as one unit made up of, I would guess, hundreds of thousands of people. You know, it's a large sector of people. And this is the thing that I think if politicians really took their time to sit down and say, look, let's meet with these animal rescue groups. Let's meet with these welfare groups. Let's meet with these NGOs, hear what they have to say, and let's bring this to our platform. Let's make sure that they are heard. Let's make sure that they are represented in Parliament. Let's make sure that animals have a voice. You know, it's the animal rescue and welfare groups that are on the ground dealing with these animals. Nobody else knows what is needed. So in order for the government to understand, and in order for the politicians and whoever wants to understand and wants to properly, sincerely, and genuinely represent this, they have to speak with us. And when I say us, I mean a unified body. The TSPCA and ON, I think they are trying to get together like a unified group. And I think the government needs to listen to that group. The government needs to, it's just a big struggle. It's a big struggle. And it's not something that anybody could take lightly.
Okay, I have another comment here. What actions could the government take, in your opinion, to create consciousness among the population in terms of animal rights?
What action can the government take to create?
In your opinion, to create consciousness among the people in terms of animal rights?
What actions can the government take? Well, to begin with, the government itself needs the consciousness. So for the government to, I think, as I said, just relating with the animal rescue groups, one. Two, I believe in interaction and participation. For example, as you said, you cannot just sit in an ivory tower and think you could put the answers on paper and talk about it. You have to get out there in the streets. So, you know, government ministers are welcome to come and join on an animal rescue mission. Why not? See what it's like. See what it's like to, you know, it's like there was a man in a wheelchair that I knew here in Tobago. He's dead now, Jason. They called him the rail chairman. And he was talking with me once and he was like, you know, I can't even go to the beach because there are no ramps. I can't do this. There are a lot of things that he couldn't do, even though he was very independent, because he was in a wheelchair. And I said to him, how about if we got, and he wasn't getting like leaders, so to speak, to listen and do things. So I said, how about if we got some of them to spend a day or more in a wheelchair? Everything they have to do, they have to go to their meetings, get in their car, go in the building, everything they have to do in a wheelchair. Only then will they realize how some doorways are so narrow they can't get through it. They realize they cannot go on those pavements because you can't, there's no ramp leading up on the pavement. Then you get on the pavement and it's a set of manholes that you could, your wheel of your wheelchair will drop into. And they'll realize how that person feels. Until you get into somebody's shoes, you don't know how they feel. So if the politician, I mean, I know they wouldn't do this, but the person asked about consciousness. I think for the government to be able to encourage a more conscious approach, they themselves have to be more conscious through the experience of, let's say, you know, go on. I have a friend who feeds like 60-something dogs every single day or more. And there are a lot of people who do that. Dogs, cats, they just go, they cook all day and then they go out feeding. Let these government ministers do that. Let them realize, okay, if they want to come to Tobago and try it out, I'll take them on a drive through the rainforest. And inevitably, you're going to find at least one or two dumped dogs. Skinny, mangy, starving, covered in ticks, fleas, you name it. Sometimes maggots. That's how it is. You know, let them see it. That's one step. The second step is, I would say,
implementation of these laws.
Implementation of the laws, yeah, definitely. Implementation of the laws is not so easy. There needs to be a unit. Every police station should have at least one or two officers specifically in charge of animal welfare, because I've gone to report stuff at the police station, and a lot of the time sometimes they're not aware of the laws, one. Two, they may say, look, we can't really, we're so busy dealing with the human aspect of it, we don't have time for the animal aspect. The animal aspect could be something as simple as a dog chained up in the hot sun for 24/7 with no water. It's panting, it's ribs, it's a skeleton. That's That's cruelty. That's neglect. That's part of the laws. That is part of the laws described as the $200,000 and 5 years in jail. Now, somebody probably wouldn't get $200,000 and 5 years in jail for that, but they may get maybe less than that. But still, something needs to be done. And
Yes, as
until
a
people,
deterrent. Yeah, we cannot stay much longer, but I
I
have a
know,
comment that
Mhm.
came here too. The relevant government agency must support public awareness programs on responsible ownership as a precursor to implementing existing animal welfare legislation, like I was
Yeah,
trying to
yeah.
elaborate on. But
Mhm.
we are clean out of time for reading.
Ms. Duncan, we want to thank you for making yourself available to us. I know it was very short notice, but it's a nice introductory conversation we had with you. We will invite you again so we can give you more time and we can elaborate, and perhaps we could perhaps invite somebody from the RSPCA or the
TSPCA and Animal Welfare Network. Yeah, that would be a good idea because would have a lot to say.
So until then, we'll be in touch with you off air. Enjoy your evening and be safe, and thank you for all that you've shared with us this afternoon. To the listening public, blessings everyone, and be safe on your way home. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so very much, Ms. Duncan and Fareed. You guys be safe. And that's it for today's edition of Heart Talk.